Good evening, everyone. It's time for the Necromaniacs horror podcast. You notice how I've been differentiating that, Mike? Distinguish it. I want to distinguish
the Necromaniac horror podcast.
Yeah.
That is true. We don't want to be confused with anything else, right, Michael?
Yeah, like there's some guy named Necro that we don't want to be confused with.
And that's all we'll say about that.
Yeah.
But welcome, everybody, to the Necromaniacs horror podcast. Mike Scandato and Mike Hill for this episode. It is good to be here. It is a Thursday. We are still in July. We're at the ass end of July, kind of sweating it out. Man, was it a hot-ass week, huh, Mike?
You ain't kidding, man. It was real hot here in the Northeast. And, yeah, it was brutal. Definitely had the AC cranked this week.
Yeah, I was away for a few days celebrating the old birthday in Atlantic City. And luckily, Stella and I spent a few days of the horrific heat wave just pretty much, trapped inside a, hotel casino, which was pretty nice. So, yeah.
I had an action-packed weekend too, man.
What did you do?
I hung out with my friend Dana, who she's moving to Germany, so I got to see her for a little bit. Hung out with her. Then I shot over to St. Vitus once again for one of those late shows.
Oh, cool! Who'd you see?
Executioner's Mask played, and I had Jay, the singer, on Everything Went Black as a guest a few episodes ago. So it was really, really cool to see him perform live. And they ended up staying at my place. The next morning I woke up and really early with like maybe 2.5 hours sleep, drove down to Richmond to like check out some of my friends down there. And yeah, it was an action-packed weekend.
So you drove to Richmond, Virginia?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. How about that?
Yeah.
How many hours is that from Jersey?
That's only 5 hours.
5 hours. Wow. You're a trooper, Markel.
Well, dude, from being on tour, I'm used to driving like 10 hours, 8 hours. So the 5 hours is not that bad, really.
Yeah. You know what? I guess you're right. I guess that isn't too bad once you've been in a van for as many hours as you have been in 2022.
That's true. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. But listeners, welcome. If you're joining us for the first time, hello. If you're a long-time listener, you know the deal. We come at you every Thursday on all of the beautiful podcast platforms. And we like to kick off the show with some plugs. Right, Mike?
Yeah, because we're taking this thing by storm. We got entertainment every damn day, coming
every
at you.
Day.
Between us and our buddies, starting on Monday with the Horror Wolf 666 podcast, brought to you by Brandon Legion. Tuesday, we have Into the Necrosphere for all things extreme metal, brought to you by Jackie Smith. Wednesday, we have Everything Went Black, which is kind of more like an eclectic selection of things that I personally find interesting. So you'll find, I don't know how many people find it as interesting as I do, but you'll find music on there, filmmakers, artists, authors, all sorts of people on there. And, and of course, Thursday, Necromaniacs.
That's right.
The horror podcast co-hosted by me, you, and Jeff Kashid. And the end of the week ends off strong with Break the Apocalypse. And that's features your brother, John Draper.
John Draper. We are brothers with different last names. That's right.
Yeah.
And John's co-host, Shaheen. What's up, guys? Thank you very much for your support. And hello to your listeners who check us out. And what we also like to do is talk a little bit about, what we've been watching or reading, or maybe even listening to. But before that, I'm going to add 2 additional plugs, Mike Hill. One is for Mike Hill's very own Tombs, metal band that you should be supporting. Follow them on Spotify. Follow those motherfuckers. And my band, The Last Stand. If you like hardcore music, you should check out The Last Stand on Spotify or iTunes or wherever the hell else you check out your music. So I just threw those two plugs into the mix, Mike.
I'm going to add another plug too, Mike. You should also be checking out Inhuman too, man.
Yes. There are 500 Inhumans. We're the only one that matters, folks. We are the long-running New York hardcore band, Inhuman. Been around since 1995. We've got 5 releases out there on Spotify and the digital platforms. So check that shit out as well. What have you been listening to, reading, or watching, Mike?
Well, you know, to gear up for that Executioner's Mask show, I've been listening to them a lot.
Cool.
You know, they're a band that's been on heavy rotation for me. You know, that as far as watching, I caught the Gwar documentary on Shudder.
Oh, nice. Now, I imagine that covers up to the death of Odorous, obviously.
Yeah, Dave Brockie. They talk about the death. There's a very emotional documentary, actually. There's a lot of stuff I didn't know about Gwar. And
yeah, I would check that out.
Very informative, very emotional. A lot of familiar faces you'll see in there. You know, bands that you guys probably like. You know, that are native to Richmond, Virginia. And then I finally got back into Better Call Saul.
Oh, very cool. See, I'm still behind on the current season, but I am going to remedy that. I think I don't have AMC because I don't have cable. So Amazon Prime offers nicely prices seasons of current running shows. Like, since I don't have cable, I'm not really able to watch Animal Kingdom. So I bought the season for $20.
Oh, wow.
And it's like 12 episodes. So that's actually really good.
It is.
You know? And I think I can do the same with the current Better Call Saul season. So I'm just going to end up buying the bullet and pay the money. And then somewhere, some listeners of ours who have the other means are screaming, going, "Why are you paying for anything?" Well, that's because that's just what I like to do. I don't like to get illegal means of any of the content that I watch. That's just me. I don't know. Call me whatever. I don't have a broken Fire Stick or whatever the hell, you know. I don't have a cracked code, yada yada. I just like to pay for things and or own things. Is that crazy, Mike?
No, I do the same, man. I Bandcamp. I'm always buying stuff. I buy movies. I buy, you know, hard copies of records and DVDs and Blu-rays and all that kind of stuff. Cassette tapes, all that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just of our Gen X-ness showing, but I think collectors of all ages just like to own things or even own the downloads, right? I mean, that's something.
Well, we had a big discussion on Everything Went Black with Steve Williams of In It Records about owning even the MP3 because you don't know when someone's just going to decide to take that shit down.
That's true. I mean, that's why I feel like if it's a more, say, underground band who, say, has all their stuff on, you know, Spotify, has all their stuff on Apple, well, if they're on an indie label, you never know what's going to happen with that label. Yeah. Right?
That's true.
So it might pay to own the CD. It may pay to own the cassette or own the vinyl, right? I mean, you know, you never know. I mean, not everybody is on, you know, Epic Records, Columbia Records, etc., right?
Yeah, and also I do remember having I read stuff about how some of these like more high profile like R&B artists will actually change the songs. Like they'll change mixes or whatever. So it's like, you know, if you're streaming it and then there's a different version of the song or something, you know, something like that. I remember reading about that, like Kanye West or something, you know.
That makes sense because they may not own the version of that song, but they have the permission to re-record that song.
Yeah, you know, so, and you know, I would rather have like I support artists putting out remixes and remasters or whatever, but you know, I want to know what I'm getting at least. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, totally. I wrapped up the Tomb of Dracula Volume 1, and I'm on to Vigilante Volume 1 in trade paperback. Yeah. It's funny, this trade paperback actually came out back in 2017. I think it's the first 11 or 12 issues of Vigilante. For the listeners, Vigilante was an early 80s DC comic that was by Marv Wolfman, who co-created the Teen Titans and a bunch of other great stuff. To say it was inspired by the Punisher would be very accurate.
Sure.
However, there's some definite differences between Vigilante and the Punisher. Their origin story is rather similar. Their wife and children were killed by the mob and yada yada. But as opposed to Frank Castle just kind of going full berserker and he was like a Vietnam vet. Adrian Chase, who is the alter ego of Vigilante, was actually a district attorney, suit and tie guy, very kind of normal, straight-laced guy who, upon the death of his family, kind of lost it and became this Avenger. So similarities and differences between the origins of Vigilante and Punisher. And also, you may know him due to the extremely popular Peacemaker show on HBO Max. They kept his name, Adrian Chase, but they completely changed his origin for that show, Mike Hill. He's a young kid, and, it's super different from the early 80s DC comic.
It was a pretty dark character, too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, very tragic. I won't give away the ending of the series, but it ends very tragically, the series. And it's kind of like a mature reader's book that it didn't start out as a mature reader's book, but I believe as it went on into the 80s, it ended in 88, they did slap that little mature readers onto the cover. It was never Vertigo because it actually did take place in the regular DC universe, Mike.
Yeah, during the 80s, I remember there was that time when it was, the direct sales market was opening up. And there was definitely some books like Moon Knight with Marvel that they kind of made it more adult. You know what I mean? And
totally.
Yeah, and I feel like Vigilante kind of fit that same mold.
And Swamp Thing and Hellblazer were started before the Vertigo imprint in the beginning of the 90s when Vertigo came out. A lot of 80s books were pretty edgy, so they would just put mature somewhere, mature content, mature readers on there. But yeah, a lot of these books were, sitting right next to your Supermans and your Batmans and whatnot. And great stuff. Check it out, Vigilante.
How many volumes are there of that trade?
Oh, here's the problem. I don't think they ever made volumes 2, 3, 4, or 5.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I am almost certain about that. I'll have to double check. But you can get volume 1. But I even think volume 1, I had to get it on eBay because it's kind of out of print. It came out in 2017. And it's funny, I remember I was in Midtown Comics holding it in my hand. And I was like, I'll just get this next time. And I never fucking got it.
Oh, man.
So I bought it on eBay for $20. So, from a person who had it in near mint condition. So I kind of lucked out. I don't think they ever followed up, which is a fucking crime. It went 50 issues. A buddy of mine was telling me the other day that he has all 50. I was like, nice. I'm working on completing my Sandman, Mike. I have 12 issues to go of the entire Sandman run.
Oh, nice. Excellent.
Yeah, some of them are pretty pricey, but I'm almost there. And, of course, I probably said before on the show, I'm very proud I have the entire Preacher run.
Oh, yeah. I'm same here. Yeah. That's a classic.
Must have. So that's what's been going on the reading front, back into trade paperbacks. On the viewing front, loving Animal Kingdom. Talked a little bit about that show last time. And plowing through the many Joe Bobs that I completely am behind on. So I just finished up the Tenebrae episode, which was really good, by the way.
Yeah, that one was great.
Joe Bob's right. Yeah, that was great, actually. I didn't know he liked that movie so much. He gave it 4 stars.
That's rare for him.
Yeah, that's his 4 stars is our 5 stars, folks. And Darcy even did a little Tenebrae cosplay. I mean, it was like, wow. I was like, oh, as a Dario fan and a big fan of Tenebrae, which we've covered on the show, mind you. Yeah, I got a big kick out of that episode.
Well, all right.
Yeah. And, Mike, I wanted to ask you, a listener not on Instagram or Facebook, I post on a metal message board called Revelation of Doom, had inquired if our entire run was on YouTube because he found some of it on YouTube and was wondering if we could ever get everything on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering what an undertaking that would probably be.
That's quite a bit of material, like work to do. Some of it, it had a lot to do with the host that we were using, like, because we started doing this when the stuff was just kind of emerging,
right?
And
that's true.
Not everything was so easy to do automatically. So now everything can post to it, but some of those early episodes are not on YouTube per se. But,
right.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a lot of work, man.
It would be a lot of work. I get it. I mean, so yeah, some of our early stuff, listeners, is on YouTube. I even think our first few, like our first 5, are there. I almost feel like.
Yeah.
But the entire run is I don't think available on Spotify. It was just kind of, we were a victim of the times.
Yeah, well,
we were such pioneers.
Spotify came along like when we were like like maybe after the first like 50 episodes.
Right.
But also the thing is, sometimes YouTube will take down shit because of copyright stuff with like music and stuff like that, because we always steal music.
That's right. Yeah, we would always use music. Exactly.
So some of that stuff might have got blocked. Who knows? I don't know. What do you want from me? You know what I mean?
But I did inform the listener that Podbean has the entire run of Necromaniacs.
Well, that's our host, so they have everything. Right. Yeah.
That is the one place. So even the listeners now who are curious and they missed something from 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, Podbean has everything we've ever done. So you can go there, check them all out. But yeah, it was cool to get that question.
Yeah, dude. I mean, those early episodes were fucking epics, man. It's like...
Yes, they were. They were as long as Stranger Things, which is was a thorn in my side. I'm just going to put it out there. Some of the listeners will disagree, will agree. I thought season 3 was very bad until that very last episode. Okay, I was watching season 4. I got to basically episode 4, and I went, I can't do this to myself. I was so not enjoying it. You know what I did? I went right to that last episode that everyone was talking about.
Yeah.
I skipped and just went right to the end. And I barely made it through that one. And I'm just like, you know what, man? I think I'm good with Stranger Things. I think I'm done. Not into it.
I suppose they're doing another episode too.
Well, they're doing another season, I think. And man. I thought this was the last season. I could have sworn I'd heard this was the last season. No, there is another season.
Those kids are getting too old, man.
Yeah, I mean, they have multiple husbands and wives at this point. They have many children. No, but yeah, I don't know. Honestly, those first 2 seasons I enjoyed very much, and even season 2 ended kind of cool. You almost could have put a cap on it, maybe, But with everything today, movies, TV, blah blah blah, everyone wants sequels. No one wants anything to end, and things go on forever. So, and I feel like this show is an example of that. I was so bored by what was going on in those seasons 3 and 4. I was like, is it me? I mean, I don't know. And then I'm like, I think this show is a children's show that a lot of adults watch, but to me, it is basically a pure kids show. And don't get me wrong. I watch fucking Star Wars shit where an adult could say to me, you're watching what is basically a purely child show. However, I think those shows are good and entertaining, and I'm not bored by them. They're exciting. I didn't find anything very exciting about this current bunch of episodes of Stranger Things, Mike. So therefore, I think I bid them farewell.
Yeah,
What about you?
I watched the entire thing, and I got to say there were moments that were cool. Like I like the Lovecraftian shit with that. What's his name, Victus?
Yeah, that new monster was cool. He was cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like this Luciferian, fall from grace of the character, which I dug that, but a lot of the stuff was just like, the addition of like 10 more characters. It's like, how many more characters are they going to add to the show? Like, Jesus, like too many. There's too many people on the show. I hate when there's too many people on a show. There's too many storylines,
Yeah.
I don't know about Ripped Hopper, like, I don't know if it works. I mean, I get it. He was in a, fucking gulag, so I'm sure that he lost weight and he was
like the Russian thing. Yeah. It just, I didn't even care. Like, I didn't even care about that whole Russian thing. I didn't even care.
I wasn't into that really.
Wasn't into it. But again, apparently the youngers loved it, and plenty of adults I know loved it. But just for me personally, I don't know. I think it's over, Johnny, for me. Yeah, it's over. But
I even thought about not even checking out this season, to be honest.
Yeah, 3 was so like trudging along and just like, oh my God, I don't even like any of these new characters. It's like, oof. 4, I'll say they upped the horror ante. Yes, they did. But I think 3 left me so broken that I didn't even care. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, 3 was bad, definitely.
Yeah. And I think some listeners are going to disagree, and some are going to say, finally, someone said it. Who knows, Mike? But I guess we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, we're all different. We all have different opinions. We're not. I'm not like Ted Cruz or something like that, who everyone has to be exactly the same as me. But
oh my God, Ted Cruz reference into a Stranger Things conversation. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that's what's been going on, man. And it brings us to tonight's episode, Mike. Mike, we're going back in time again, aren't we?
Yeah, to a relatively obscure film called God Told Me To.
Yes.
Relatively obscure, but you said that there's a 4K coming out, which means that it's actually a good seller over at Blue Underground.
Now this movie has been with Blue Underground for a long time on DVD and Blu-ray. And when I was doing my little research on it, sure enough, they have made it in 4K Ultra HD. And Blue Underground has only kind of been doing that. They've been picking and choosing what they do that with. They did it with Maniac and Zombie and their heavy hitters that they have in their stable. But they did one for God Told Me To, which to me has to mean that they felt that it was worthy and that it sells. So that's a good sign.
Yeah. Well, this came out October 22nd, 1976, and is a lean 91 minutes long.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Directed and written by Larry Cohen, who, if you're a fan of horror, you know the name Larry Cohen. He's got a huge catalog, including It's Alive, The Stuff,
cool movie.
Q, which is one of my favorites of his.
Q. Oh, I need to see that again.
Yeah. And then a whole host of other films, He's just a prolific guy.
The other cool thing about Mr. Larry Cohen, all of his movies on location in New York City. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, he's a very, very New York filmmaker.
Yeah, totally. Like he liked to set the movies that he made, in New York, shot in New York. Never met him. I mean, he did the con circuit. He died March 23rd, 2019 at the age of 82. But I never got to meet him, though. I always wanted to meet him.
Yeah. The star of this is Tony LoBianco as Lieutenant Peter J. Nicholas. I don't buy that name, really.
Peter Nicholas. Yeah.
He doesn't look like a Peter Nicholas to me.
Yeah, he looks as Italian as the day is long.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We've got Deborah Rafflin as Casey Forster, Sandy Dennis as Martha Nicholas, Sylvia Sidney as Elizabeth Mullen, Sam Levine as Everett Lucas, Robert Drivas as David Morton, Mike Kellen as the Deputy Commissioner, and we have one of my favorite character actors, Richard Lynch, as Bernard Phillips. And Richard Lynch passed away back in 2012. So
yes,
yeah,
kind of a face that once you see, you kind of never would forget. Mike Kellen was in one of our favorite movies collectively at the old Necromaniacs podcast. He was in none other than Sleepaway Camp.
Yep, that's right.
Which was the final film he ever did, playing the role as Mel, the sleazy camp counselor, the head camp counselor guy who tries to go on a date with a 17-year-old, and he's like 60. Yeah, he played Mel in that movie. That was his last movie ever. He died of cancer literally months after Sleepaway Camp. But in this movie, it's 1976. He is the deputy commissioner. You kind of can't miss him if you've seen Sleepaway Camp. Would you agree?
He's got one of those faces for sure.
Yeah,
you know,
and voices, right?
Yeah,
he's got
face
like this
and voice similar to Richard Lynch. It's a face that you just know that face when you see it.
Oh yeah, totally. Long Island.
Speaking of faces in the crowd, this is apparently Andy Kaufman's first appearance in a film.
Yes. Okay, as I'm watching the movie, again, this was my first time seeing this movie, a movie I'd always wanted to see. It was in that mental to watch pile. There's a close-up of Andy Kaufman's face. He plays a police officer in a parade. And I go, is that Andy Kaufman? And then I kind of just went away in the back of my head. And then as I'm doing the research, I went, son of a bitch, it was Andy Kaufman.
Yep.
As the police assassin. And it is one of his first credits, too. It's his first film credit ever, actually.
As soon as I saw him, I was like, this motherfucker looks just like Andy Kaufman. And I immediately went to my phone, to IMDb, to check it out. And I'm like, oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, he had done TV work before 76, but sure enough, his first actual film role is the police officer who gets a little buck wild in this movie. Yeah.
Now, as we mentioned, this takes place in the 70s in New York City. In a way, I feel like in the 70s, you heard about a lot of like random murders by gunmen and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Yeah.
This has a pretty unforgettable beginning, listeners. It's like a sunny afternoon in Manhattan, busy streets, busy day. And all of a sudden you hear gunshots and people getting shot and just close-ups of people getting pegged off by a fucking sniper. I mean, it's a wild beginning, huh?
Yeah, definitely. It sets
That's
the tone
the beginning
for the
of
film. Yeah.
A guy's on a water tower with a .22 caliber rifle, randomly killing people. He kills all in all 15 pedestrians. Wow, brutal beginning.
And Tony LoBianco's character, he's a cop. You know, he's on the scene of the scene. The shooter's up on the water tower, and I'm going to call him LoBianco because I don't. He doesn't look like a Nicholas to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll call him by his acting name. Yes.
Yeah. So he climbs up. They're trying to bring him in alive. You know what I mean? And he's up there. It's like a younger man, and he asks him, basically, why is he murdering all these people? And the guy replies, God told me to. And propels himself off the top of the tower. And, and that's
hard ass beginning, man. Hard.
Hard begining. And you can see that it kind of haunts him because like there's another scene where he's in bed with his his what turns out to be his girlfriend. And, and he wakes up out of a nightmare. And I imagine most cops have nights like that, with all the stuff those guys see,
The girlfriend was quite the looker. Her name was Deborah Raffin. She was an actress. She was also a model. No surprise there. Yeah, it's kind of weird how within about 20 minutes into the movie, you realize that she was not his wife, that he actually has a wife. And it's like the very weird kind of scenario going on there, huh? Also of note, this movie, in certain places in America, was referred to as Demon, Michael.
Really?
Not God Told Me To. Yes.
Interesting.
Because it didn't do that well in certain places. And a lot of times, if a movie didn't perform well, it got to get retitled. And one of the retitling of this movie was Demon. What do you think of that title?
I'm thinking about it right now because we can build up to that because there's so much that I can almost see that, really. But then again, I can't see it at all.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird, I don't know if it completely fits. God Told Me To is actually the better title, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But maybe not the better title in 1976. Who knows, right?
Well, yeah, because that becomes like a recurring theme throughout the film. You know, there's a wave of crime that's descending on New York City, random murders by people who don't have a background in being violent. You know, fathers killing their kids. And the reason that unanimously everyone across the board says that God told me to. That's their justification for all this murder.
And basically, Peter Nicholas, who we were referring to as his real name, Tony LoBianco, learns that at the scene of all these crimes, there's this person who's described as a male or potentially a female having shoulder-length blonde hair, right?
Yes.
They keep saying that. And we learn he has a very odd kind of common name of Bernard Phillips, right?
Yes, yes.
And, you know, they have a little bit of trouble trying to get some information on Bernard Phillips until they finally get an address for him. And this is fairly early on in the film. Tony LoBianco goes to visit that address. And this is another kind of buck wild, bonkers scene. The mother with the knife in the hallway, who starts like, you know, going after him and attacking him. And she's like all deranged and crazy. That was actually a scary scene, huh?
It was. And also the way it was lit, it was like super dark and you kind of couldn't really see what was going on too, you know.
You couldn't tell if he was going to die or not, you know, the lieutenant. But it turns out like she assaults him with a knife and she falls down a flight of stairs. And basically, you know, we learn that she was abducted, right, by aliens. Well, she claims to have been abducted by aliens when she was younger.
Well, before we get into that, I want to kind of talk a little bit about how this movie starts off as this kind of police procedural. And the story could have easily just been like a cop movie, really, where there's like a bunch of nut jobs out there, like killing people. You know.
I agree.
But then it takes this turn. And this is right around the time that it takes this turn because there's another one of the murderers who did not die. He's in custody. LoBianco goes to visit him, and the guy is like has this very peaceful vibe, and he murdered his kid and his wife. And there's a
scene was disturbing.
It was like super creepy, you know, and you know, Tony LoBianco was getting really upset, you know, because it's killed your kid and all this. And the guy makes a statement about how sacrifices to your God is nothing new.
There's nothing new, right? It's in the Bible. And
So this kind of creates like this kind of vibe where it's like, okay, there's something going on. There's like, you know, the idea of God, the idea of religion, all this stuff kind of plays into the storyline. And then we find out about Bernard Phillips's mother. And there's a really interesting scene where they find, what was the guy, like a cab driver or something like that? Who picks her up? Yeah. So out in New Jersey, this guy comes across this naked woman This is all told in like
In
flashbacks.
flashback, in black and white, right?
Yeah, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
Some naked woman's running through the wilds in New Jersey, and this guy picks her up and gives her a coat and everything, and she talks about how she was walking on the beach in Massachusetts or something like that, and then she just was abducted into this like spaceship.
Yeah, and she claimed she was a virgin.
Yes.
Also.
Yeah.
And
when she gets returned, which is around the time this guy finds her, she discovers that she's pregnant, similar to the Immaculate Conception in the Bible of the Virgin Mary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had said before we got rolling something that I'm going to wholeheartedly agree with.
Yeah.
It has a DC Vertigo comics vibe to it, this story. Like, it takes that turn. It starts out 70s kind of crime thing, and then all of a sudden it comes out of like a Hellblazer vibe.
Totally.
Totally done. Especially maybe in like the earlier versions of the Hellblazer comic, like, the OG 100 issue run of Hellblazer, like when he was really kind of like solving mysteries, murders, cases, right?
Yeah, totally. John Constantine, this is like a case that he would have had to deal with, I think, in Hellblazer. And, yeah. So now it's like turning into this like supernatural alien kind of caper that we're trying to figure out, like what the resolution of this whole thing is. And so that's the story. This Bernard Phillips guy is like basically the Nephilim. He's the
Nephilim. And if you know what we're talking about, folks, the Nephilim, if you know your I don't know if we're going to call it it's Christian folklore, because it's not really in the Bible, is it? It's when an angel mates with a human woman, and the child that they beget is like this being called the Nephilim. A lot of times it's like a giant, or it's like some kind of magical, crazy, sketchy being. Right, Mike?
Exactly. Yeah. They catch up with the doctor who delivered Bernard Phillips. And it turns out that they couldn't tell the sex of the child at first.
Yeah.
And he has this whole thing where he's like, he's
male and female sex organ.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that gives this whole, it just adds to this mystery about what Bernard Phillips actually is, or who he is. And, it's the Christian angle, the Roman Catholic angle, the alien angle, like all that stuff is at play right now.
Oh, yeah. And we should let the listeners know, Peter Nicholas, Tony LoBianco, is a huge Catholic. We should let you all know. He's, before the murders start, before any of the craziness in New York City starts and all that, he's already a very kind of religious man, very devout Catholic. But he has always kind of felt a bit off, right, Mike? He just hasn't been sure about himself and his life, and a lot of weird stuff with the first wife, right?
Yeah, that's the thing, man. It's like the first wife, there is this weird attachment that they have.
Yes.
And the new girlfriend, it's like somehow she figures in, and there's distance. And there's a lot of really interesting dialogue that goes on later in the film, for sure.
Yeah, his girlfriend, Casey, she feels like she's not really being let in on his feelings, which she obviously is not, and that he might be, hiding something, which he obviously is. And she's kind of aware that he's pretty much still going to see his wife, Martha, right, on the regular.
Yes.
Like there's some weird, interesting dialogue, and some of it I actually wasn't sure if I kind of didn't understand some of it, actually.
There was this whole thing about his wife having miscarriages and
yeah. And then it turns out that like there was it kind of ties into a bit of who it turns out Tony LoBianco is, right? Obviously. But yeah, it gets very supernatural. It's got a space angle. It's got a religious angle. and there are these crazy murders taking place. There is basically a cult that is kind of worshiping, this being, right? It's like a bit of a cult conspiracy thing going on.
Yeah.
That's worshiping Bernard Phillips, so to speak. Then there was an interesting scene where his co-workers, including our friend from Sleepaway Camp, call his girlfriend, Casey, into the office, right?
Yeah, they're interrogating her. Yeah.
They interrogate her to ask her questions. And it's interesting. For a B movie, some of the acting in this movie is quite good. Would you agree?
Well, they got some real G's like in this movie, like real experienced character actors in this film. So I wasn't, to me, I was like, yeah, this is totally what I expected from these actors,
And it's like you've got a few movies in one, in a way, but it's not like a hot mess. Not really. I mean, look, some of the effects are a bit wonky. It's shot in 75, came out in 76. It was a low budget film. But you're there, you're not grabbing your phone like it's Stranger Things. You know what I'm saying? You're watching the movie.
And this is on Shudder right now. So I really want people to go out and see this movie because the conclusion of this film is pretty intense, man. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I really want to spoil the ending, honestly, because
we don't have to.
Yeah,
we don't have to.
Even though this came out in 76, I feel like this wasn't something that it wasn't like a big blockbuster, and a lot of people haven't. I mean, hell, you and I, who are fans of this type of thing, we didn't see it until just a couple weeks ago or whatever this past week.
Yeah, exactly. And it is also on Amazon for like $3, so in HD, which is nice.
Yeah.
And as we had said at the start of the episode, there's a beautiful, 4K HD fucking disc of it. And there's the OG DVD and older version Blu-ray are all out there for the taking. It is fairly shocking ending, kind of a 70s bummer ending. Would you agree?
It definitely has a downbeat ending.
Yeah.
And the whole movie, like I watched it twice, and the first time I saw it, I was like, man, this really got me. I had so many things running through my head at the end of this movie. And I was like, man, because it ties into so much stuff that I'm interested in.
Yes, it does.
Religion, aliens, conspiracies, cults, like all that stuff. And then, of course, it's kind of nested within this police procedural crime film. So it kind of has all these elements in it that make for a really, really interesting viewing.
Interesting. Cohen's main inspiration to make this movie was reading the Bible, and how, on, I guess, a new reading of it, how violent it came across and shocking. And another book that inspired him to write and make this movie, the book Chariots of the Gods, which a book I've always heard about over the years by Eric von Daniken, but never checked out. Chariots of the Gods. It's from 1968, probably still available. You can get it.
Oh yeah. I got two copies. I got 2 copies of it, actually.
There you go.
Yeah.
And some more little fun facts. One of my favorite character actors ever, the late Robert Forster, was originally supposed to be in this movie. Apparently even shot a few days worth of scenes for the movie and then just quit because Cohen was one of those directors who yelled a lot. And I don't like people who yell a lot. So I said, I'm out of here, that quote unquote. So this would have been an interesting movie with Robert Forster as the star. Another cool tidbit, Bernard Herrmann, the famous composer who had scored Cohen's earlier film, It's Alive, and also scored Taxi Driver, was supposed to score this movie and died pretty much right before he was able to score this film. So the movie ended up being dedicated to him, actually. So yeah, Bernard Herrmann would have been some. The music for this movie is decent. It might have been probably something else if Bernard Herrmann might have scored it.
Now, a lot of times we talk about remakes and, our take on films being remade. Mm-hmm. And some of the older classics that maybe they should have left well enough alone.
Yeah,
But you and I were talking about how this one actually would be a nice remake.
it would be, because I think, again, with money not being an issue, or look, giving this basic premise an update, I mean, hell, there's even the hermaphrodite setting, which was real shocking in 1976, might be quite a bit less shocking in 2022. I just think the overall story, if it played really kind of straight and serious and dark, would be pretty wild in modern eyes. Look, back then, Ebert gave this movie a 1 out of 4. Cut to the 2000s, Rolling Stone magazine names it one of the 20 scariest movies you've never seen. So that just shows you time, people. Sometimes movies need time. Ideas need time. I would definitely think an upgrade with this kind of basic same premise would be pretty fucking fun to watch. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And this, the original's good. I mean, it's atmospheric. It takes place in the 70s. It has this grittiness, this New York grittiness to it. The acting is good. The story is something I thought it very unique for the time that it came out. Like that, these weren't, well, maybe, maybe with like The Exorcist and things like that, like religion, and there was like this kind of sketchier sides of religion.
I would not put this on the list of the post-Exorcist ripoffs.
No, not for sure.
I wouldn't do that, but I would put it in maybe that religious mindset. But Cohen does something it's totally different from any kind of possession movie. It's not a possession movie.
Well,
it's a religion movie. It's a religion / extraterrestrial / crime drama horror movie. That's pretty wild.
Well, what I, in my mind at least, I've been creating this other genre that's like Roman Catholic horror. That's like, has like heavy duty Roman Catholic imagery, and that's why I mentioned The Exorcist and
Alice, Sweet Alice,
Sweet Alice, like the
Omen. Sure.
It fits nicely with all those other films, I think.
I think so too. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a reason why it's now on lists of greatest horror movies you've never seen, and why it's getting looked at with, new eyes and reevaluated as a good movie. It's because it is a good movie. I don't think the world was ready for it at the time, Mike. What about you?
You're probably right. Yeah. And once again, it's, we talked about the title too, because the title, it was because I guess it didn't blaze up the, wasn't really doing great. And they changed the title at one point. It was known as Demon at some point.
Demon. Yeah. Just Demon. I mean, but Demon, like, you're going to see a movie in the 70s called Demon. It could be fucking anything. I mean, you don't know what the hell it's going to be. It's, I don't know. God Told Me To is the better name overall. But yeah, the movie, it wasn't a hit or anything. It's just one of these cool movies that, we on the show in particular kind of like to champion and get out there. And obviously we know other people before us have probably championed this movie as well. But it is funny to see it getting, this love, and it even hit Time Out Magazine's top 100 best horror films back in 2014. How about that?
This would be another one I'd like to see Joe Bob do on The Last Drive-In too.
Yeah. I wonder if he did it like way back and we just didn't see it, but I don't think he's done it. No.
Well, no, this has only been on Shudder for a few months, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, what would you give 1976's God Told Me To on our scale of 1 to 5?
I gave it a 4.5.
4.5. I give it a very solid 4 with a bullet.
Yeah.
It is a great horror film. It's worth seeing. It's not perfect. It is, it's not Halloween. It's not The Thing. But it is a very good movie, and it is definitely worth your time.
Having seen a lot of Cohen's other films, this one is up there, man. Maybe one of my maybe my favorite film that he's done, actually.
I would like to see It's Alive again. That was like one of those, when you're a young kid, video store movies,
Yeah, definitely.
Pairs well with Basket Case, would you say?
Yep, I would say
It's
that
Alive,
too.
Basket Case, double feature.
Yep.
Now that would be fun on Joe Bob's Drive-In. We give
Oh,
Joe
wow.
Bob a lot of love on this show, don't we?
Yeah, and it's funny, like there is some sort of synchronicity with some of the things that we talk about that actually end up on his show.
Yes, months later. Yes, months later. A lot of the movies we cover are covered on his show. It is what it is. I just think great minds maybe think alike. That's what I think. Who knows, right?
Well, Halloween is right around the corner. Really, if you think about it, it's July. It's only a few more months till October, and there'll be, for no doubt, there's going to be a Joe Bob thing in October. So maybe this will show up on the show.
Totally. And speaking of Halloween, just a little brief, mention the Halloween trailer for the new film, Halloween Ends. Did you see it?
I have not.
Good. Very good. I mean, look, thank God it's not one of those let's show the whole movie in it, but, creepy, was brief, enjoyable. Another trailer I saw and I enjoyed, which has been, rife with community chatter, is Rob Zombie's Monsters. Did you see that trailer?
Yeah, man. I'm not gonna.
Oh,
I can't go
come
there,
on.
dude.
Really?
No, man. I would hate myself if I went to that movie, I think.
What?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Even with the newly reappraised Mike Hill of Rob Zombie's work? What?
This is just one bridge too far for me, man. You know what I mean?
No. I think he's perfect for this. I enjoyed the hell out of the trailer, and I'm excited about it. I don't know, man. That's just me.
Maybe we should do a 42nd Street viewing of this. Maybe we can go together or something like that and check it out.
Oh my God. Well, look, I know we'll probably end up doing our roundtable Halloween Ends. I do think you and I should cover the Monsters.
All right.
Will you cover it with me?
Fuck it. Why not?
Okay.
I've done, more dubious things than that for sure.
But yeah, that comes out in September. Halloween Ends comes out, of course, October 14th.
Yeah.
Look, man, I gotta say, I hope it puts a fucking cap on it. I really do. I hope it, it's probably not gonna, unfortunately, but it is called Halloween Ends, so maybe it is.
What we should do with the Monsters, man? We should coordinate a day that, like, when I'm in the city for work and you're in the city for work, and check it out, like on one of those 34th Street, like AMC theater, like early evening showings or something like that.
Okay, it is going straight to Netflix though.
Oh, fuck! Really?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if it is even getting a theatrical. It's getting a Blu-ray DVD prior to the Netflix, like the week or so prior, and then it's going to be on Netflix, which in a way is kind of great for Rob Zombie, and it's great. It's like before Halloween, like he's finally getting to do something Halloweenish that doesn't come out in like June, or like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
fair enough.
Like, a lot of times, a lot of his shit does not come out in the right fucking month. If you've noticed, it'll come out in the months where movies go to die or horror movies go to die. So.
Well, all right. If it's going to be on Netflix, and it's no skin off my back, so I'll just watch it.
We'll plop it on. But how about that? I thought you'd be a little more excited, a little bit more.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. I know Jeff is going to be very into it. Super
man. He doesn't like anything, man. I'd be surprised.
Well, yeah, I listened to the off season episode. Yeah, you guys not super into off season. Yeah, as a matter of fact, that episode made me not even bother watching it.
Dude.
I just listened to the episode, so I'm good. I'm not going to watch it.
Man, Richard Brake, man. The fucking guy rules. I want to see more of him. I want to see him as a leading man. Remember him in 31? He was great.
Yeah, amazing. Hey, man, sometimes Brake's got to eat, and I'm sure this movie was I got to eat movie. I'm a working actor.
He was one of the best things in the movie was him, actually.
I'm sure he was. All right, maybe I will watch it. just because.
Yeah, put it on. It's not so bad. Like I said, there were good things about it. It just overall wasn't that great.
Yeah. They can't all be winners, as they say.
Man, of course not, you know.
You got to have some turkeys in there. But all right, listeners, this was another fine edition of Necromaniacs podcast, your weekly horror extravaganza, right, Michael?
That's right. And we'll talk to you guys next week. Take care now.
Take care, everybody. Bye.